Hello, everyone, and welcome to Focus and Foundations. I am Tina Kramer, and I'm here with my dear friend, Kelley Phipps. I am the creator of Simple Learning and the patent pending sound device. And Kelley, tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm Kelley Phipps, and I own Centerpoint Learning Solutions and the Tutoring Center. And I'm boots on the ground working with individuals that have struggles, any number of learning or social struggles that really stems from disorientation. So we just create new habits and move ahead.
So, interestingly enough, Kelley and I were preparing for this podcast, and I jumped on here starting to tell her a story about time management. I said, "Oh my gosh, Kelley, it is so funny. I teach time management. I do this for a living. However, I've been watching this video that was talking about time management. Because I am an entrepreneur, the way that my mind works, I want to start a project and I want to do that project in a day and be done. However, with my business, with my coaching, with my sales and marketing, as it's related to the sound device, I am getting so busy. I now need to split my day up into like hour increments so that I am moving several different things forward over the course of a week, a month, and ultimately I have year-end goals. So as I was telling Kelley, Kelley, what was it you said we had to do first? And I know this, but I have a learning difference as well. And my inclination is to just jump right in.
And what I had said, and it's 100% true, is that all of this self-help that we seek, and everyone does seek it because there's such great information that's available in so many different places. But if we're going to make something actually work in our lives, we have to start from a foundation of focus. If we start from that, then we're bringing ourselves into the now and really looking at what it is we need to do. And those efforts that we put into place actually come into fruition. And we don't feel like we're spinning our wheels. So from what you listened to, what were you able to glean that you think you're going to put, or what tidbits did you catch?
So the most important thing for me, I think big picture. My mind sees big picture. When I'm explaining to people, a lot of times I'll ask the question, when you look at a tree, where do you start? Where do you break the tree up? And most people will be like, it's a tree. I see the whole tree. And I know that's a little bit of a silly question, but it makes the point. That's how my mind works. I see the whole big project, and you see what my hands are doing here right now. So I'm going to work a little bit right here, and I'm going to work a bit right here, and then I'm going to jump up there, and then I'm going to come down here, and then and that's my natural inclination. However, I am getting so busy. I now need to break that tree down into parts, looking at hour increments. So I need to spend an hour on my marketing. I need to spend an hour on my interacting on social media because I have both Instagram, I do things on LinkedIn, and also Facebook. And I need to talk to people because they're asking me questions. And then I need to do my prep work. And then there's time for the podcast. And there's time for editing. Which again, Kelley and I both talk from a place of we understand, we live this. I was just saying to you earlier, you're like, Tina, did you get a chance to look at the last podcast? And I'm like, no time.
I trust you. Put it out, right? Brave woman.
But that is that. And Kelley, say a little more about this because we're getting into that executive functioning and executive functioning. I like to think I'm a pretty intelligent lady, but when it comes to time management, it is a conscious thing that I have to approach and take responsibility for.
And that's just it, conscious, right? That it takes more than just intention, it takes action and it takes purpose. So I have on my wall in my office now in at least 5 different places, I have this phrase. I have intention in bold, and then underneath it, I have do it with purpose. Hey, those are kind of dichotomies, right? Because intention is something, okay, I want to do this. I really am going to do it. And we sit in intention and we do nothing, right? That's it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. There's a reason that little phrase has been coined. And so until we take that intention and we put it into action, it just sits there. And when we're individuals that are ADD, okay, let's just say it right there, or fast thinkers, easily distracted, we are also, by the time we become adults, we tend to be perfectionists. So we do want to do it all. We want to do it now. We want to have it done, and we want to do it the very best. So we have a picture in our mind of what the tree is, which is perfection. And then we have us, which is anything but perfection. And so then we start the self-talk that becomes negative and brings us down, and we lose confidence, and then it just kind of spirals, right? And I think every individual has lived that at some point, and they can say, oh yeah, I recognize that. That was me. I know where that is. So the whole idea of being able to pick a skill within that executive functioning realm and identify, this is what I need help with, and then intentionally seek out the assistance to get there. Because when you're an individual that it doesn't come natural for, and honestly, let me start over. It honestly doesn't come natural for anyone. People have a predominant disposition to understand order or not. And if you understand order and you've seen it created and you're in the present and a part of it, it becomes a part of you and it forms your habits, etc. If you're an individual who it's not a natural piece to, you may have already seen it, you may have been a part of it, but it never applied. So you didn't take it in. Either way, both individuals had to learn something. So it's not something we should ever beat ourselves up over, because we don't lack something someone else does. We are at a different starting point, and so we have to build it for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would like to say a little bit more about that, because sometimes we use these phrases, and when you're an individual that does have opportunity in these areas, we also don't always have awareness, and then it hurts self-esteem. So let me give an example. I'm going to actually give an example of success, because we all know the stories where it doesn't go so well. I have a client that I'm working with right now, very gifted, very talented individual. He works in the world of IT, and he developed an app, and it's turned out to be incredibly successful. So much so that he now has an entire team, an entire company, 26 different people that are working for him. And then that has allowed him to now spend more time at home. And he's almost moved into an area of being a recluse and isolating. Now, isolation is a big part of the people I meet and challenges they experience, but isolating himself from family and friends. And when I got the call from him, I said, well, what's the challenge? I'll ask, what made you call me? What's your goal? And one of the things that he told me, he said, I don't like people and people don't like me. So that was one thing that he told me. And then he said, the other thing was, he said, I can start a million things and never finish them. Now, I knew him from life. This is a very successful man. However, to talk to him personally, the conversation was quite negative. Another thing that I hear, I guess we're a little bit more on the topic of ADD, ADHD today, is it's the tomorrow disease. So touching on or building upon what you said about an intention. See, intention is, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. But if you're always doing it tomorrow, today never comes and it never gets started. Mm-hmm. So there are different aspects of this. There is the person that I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes. It never turns into day, and that you actually start. And then the gentleman that I'm talking about that actually is a client right now, he starts things, but he never finishes them.
Mm-hmm.
He has figured out he is so good at starting. He recognizes, and he's got a whole team that finishes for him. Which
That's what I mentioned yesterday, right? That
yeah.
there is a place for it if you have those people to do exactly what you said, right?
The thing though, Kelly, and that last bit is, even in that gentleman and in that story, this has affected his self-esteem.
Mm.
So in the telephone call and the help that he was asking for, he is telling me all the things bad that's happened to him and how bad he is. We both know that's not true. And then we are going through base concepts right now for him to identify and realize what's really happening in his life. But because he perceives himself as being different from others around him, he's turned that story into, I'm bad, I'm not as good. And it's affected self-esteem because it's something he's dealt with his whole life.
Wow. Yeah, that's really real.
Mm.
So how do you help him?
So we actually move into concepts. So this brings us back to the executive functioning. So we're looking at first his identity of self, and then we're putting a program together that is heavy on sequencing, organization, disorganization, and then through I do additional work. It's called rapid rewire, and through the rapid rewire, as old identities come up that no longer serve, we're moving those out and getting those, actually they're internalized is what they are. So he starts to realize how his mind works. He has a choice, and he's actually quite gifted. So he realizes how gifted he is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so powerful, because the thing is, so I too have spent some time here recently really looking at what is happening in the world of psychology around ADD, because I too work with individuals that are struggling in that area, and that is me too, right? I always laugh people, honestly. I have great sisters, just saying. I have great sisters, and they support me in wonderful ways, but they're two very different individuals. And I have a sister that spots disorder like that. And she comes in and she kind of tweaks me so that things feel good. I'm like, oh, I love that, because it's not natural to me. I recognize the disorder. I don't like the disorder, but I'm always in tomorrow and don't take the time today to take care of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I have recently, like I said, really been looking at the aspects of ADD, of thinking in tomorrow, and how does that actually affect us, and how does that affect our self-esteem, right? And I found some things that really resonate with me and what I know to be true about myself, and the pieces and parts that I would like to fix or improve. And it's this idea of routine. And I think that's what you're trying to establish so that you can get all of the things done in your world that need to be done. To actually want to engage in routine, it has to be fun and novel. And we avoid routine because it becomes mundane and old. And there's huge danger there, because you cannot always start something new. I think that's why we jump around, is because we get tired of the routine and we have to change, or we think we're going to go crazy, or our brain just does it for us. So I learned a long time ago, when I work with kids that are busy, keep it novel, keep it challenging.
Yes.
Right? Challenge the intellect, keep them moving, and you'll keep them in your pocket, right? They won't run away. And so that has to apply to me. Keep it novel, keep it different, keep moving on the path, and you'll keep yourself in line. But I found it really interesting that things that I knew, things I had been taught in other ways, also are what the experts say. They also say that same thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you brought this up because my daughter, she's a junior at ASU. She's an environmental engineering student.
Wow.
So she's in physics, she's in chemistry classes. And she was talking about her professors and how they teach. And she's got a 2-hour class. She's got a couple of them. One professor lectures the whole 2 hours. And she's like, Mom, after 40 minutes, I'm gone. I have no idea what he's saying. And she goes, you look at everybody in the class, nobody else knows what he's saying either. She's got another professor that teaches a 2-hour class. So one's chemistry, the other's physics. So in my opinion, tough classes to try to stay, and listen. But the way that professor sets his class up is that he's lecturing 15 minutes. He takes 5 minutes and he gets everybody up. So there's some type of mini little practice to where he's moving them to the whiteboards. They're writing. There's some type of movement that causes them to get up. She goes, that class goes incredibly quick. She goes, I remember, she said, I don't have to study near as hard because I actually remember the content. So speaking, giving an example of exactly what you've said, that we actually like to be challenged, but we want it to be broken up for us a little bit.
Right. And so we need to do that for ourselves. We have to figure out, how do I build that into my routine? What do I do to keep myself moving? One thing that, in just thinking about your discussion of, I need to spend an hour here, I need to spend an hour there, we are trapped by what the world created for organization.
Yeah.
Okay. Regular calendars don't work very well in general for individuals that have difficulty thinking in chunks of time, because what we're really thinking is projects.
Yeah.
I got to do this, I got to do that. You can't take a project and shove it into an hour, because we know that when we are full blown into something, if we do not see it through and finish it, it will not get done. So to table it means I have to take all of that energy that I took to get me started the first time, and I have to re-spend it in that. And so being able to manage your world by managing your projects and knowing which project must I get completed today, which project must get completed tomorrow, which one can I start and restart, which one, being able to prioritize and do that rather than try to chunk it into hours. When we were in school, I remember in college, I absolutely loved this because my world was ordered for me. I love it when people order my own world. I'm kind of like that, but I have difficulty ordering my own. I've spent years and years and years buying planners and never writing anything in them because I know I can't fit their little boxes, and then it hurts my feelings. I know that sounds weird to say it like that, but I'm hurting my own self-esteem because I'm not doing what they want me to. Whoever they is.
I had a student when I was teaching in Hong Kong that he had never got a formal diagnosis, definitely have been ADHD, incredibly intelligent young man. When having a conversation with him, and I taught 7th and 8th grade math and science, and he was actually in 10th grade. And he came on my radar in a point in time in my life where I wasn't officially doing this type of work, but I was doing it. I just didn't know I was doing it. And they brought him to me and they're like, can you help this guy? He's always late. He doesn't do any of his work. He doesn't turn anything in. And he sat down with me, and the first thing out of his mouth was, Mrs. Kramer, you're not going to give me one of those planner things, are you? Because I've had at least 3 of those every year since I've been in 2nd grade. Trust me, they don't help, and I'm like, honey, no, I'm
Mhm.
not give you one of those things. But then we ended up taking him through the beginnings of what, now are very much a set program that I do. But we were, back then I didn't know that we were working on time, we were working on sequencing, and we were looking at the order of importance.
It's amazing that when we touch on those areas in our own personal life that seem to be in disorder, the things that are causing us problems, when we touch on them and we actually intentionally address them and we start taking action in that direction, how much peace we find in all of these other areas. It's pretty amazing. I have to tell you, I had the opportunity to work in a very structured classical school after having been my own person, my own entrepreneur for years. And I intentionally chose to put myself back into that structure, not because of the structure, but because of the program, and hoping to see that we could find a way to mesh these two things together. And the interesting thing, I mean, lots of wonderful blessings came from that in lots of different ways, but my own personal experience was really eye-opening for me, because for the first time in a long time, I was forced to work alongside someone that is my complete opposite in the way of thinking and interacting with individuals. And one would hope that when you're opposites, you could find common ground. And I think at some point we probably did. I certainly respect that person for what they have and what they're able to do and what they've accomplished in the world. That being said, we seriously process and think completely different. And when you're in an administrative team, that's difficult. So what I learned from that, though, what I personally gained from that is an understanding that I'm okay with the way that I do it, that it doesn't look like the rest, like the typical sequential management, but it's effective and it makes things happen. And so there's a place for it. And so I very appreciate the way you described the way you're ordering your world, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, because that's what mind mapping is about. And it is a way of global processing. We actually teach most individuals that teach writing, they will talk about webbing to get their ideas out. Webbing is an effective form of brainstorming and pulling ideas together. Webbing works very, very well to order your day and to order anything. And certain apps can make it easier, or certain programs, or just a whole bunch of pieces of paper. There's lots of ways to do it, right? But it's effective. And that's good if it gets you where you want to be in the end.
Yes.
And it's efficient to you. In the end, we want to have a completed project. So that is very valid. And then the other individuals that may process very, very sequentially and linearly, if that's how they process, and there's programs for that too. And that would be the line item day planners.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Kelley, the other thing too, I think it's so important to emphasize that we work with individuals and we give them information that's been missing from their lives, but then we also support them in figuring out what works for them. So yes, you do need the education to understand something that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
However, then respect what you're capable of doing, just like you said with your husband. You and I, we read Franklin Covey. No.
Yeah.
But we still manage to get tons of things done. There are the mundane, though. There is the times when I have to do something that is just, nails on a chalkboard, but I still have to do it. I'm an adult. like to think I'm responsible. And for me, sometimes I have to call somebody. My kids are adults now, and they know I only do it every once in a while. But last week I had to do a contract. It was pulling teeth for me to do that. And I was putting so much stress on myself. And I finally, I called my son for an hour and said, "Hey, can you just be on the phone? You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to interact with me. I had him on FaceTime on my phone here, and he would just, hey mom, how you doing? Every little bit. And then so that I didn't burn him out. He's got to work, he's got a life. Then I called my daughter. Hey Stace, I need another hour. Are you studying? What are you doing? She's like, yeah, mom, I'm studying. I'm like, can I just, and I just had the phone sitting right there by my computer, and then I would touch it. So when I hit those places to where it is so hard for me to do, I really appreciate, and it's part of the ability that I have of using somebody else's energy. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but having them present makes me more present.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can stay focused and I can continue on.
I agree. And I think part of that too is sometimes we are so set in our ways that we know the choice we need to make, but we need to give ourselves permission to make that choice because it feels so contrary. And so I have called my sister, or my kids, and said, I need you to give me permission to do this. And generally that's my sister, because my sister will automatically, absolutely, that's a great choice to do it. Somebody else might think differently. But to have that affirmation is huge. And again, as me looking through all of this information, trying to glean from other places, that was another thing that they had said, that there was a recommendation that if you're doing something that's difficult and you're trying to make a difficult change, find someone to give you affirmations. If you need a buddy to say, hey, great job, you got up this morning, right? You have difficulty getting up. If that's the problem, then good job, you're up, way to go. If you need that person to be able to connect with you, then do it. It's worth it. And you'll see your change happen faster, because we know nothing becomes permanent. We can always undo things. But what I mean is when we want to really change something, that intentional, purposeful action towards.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it takes. And we know that 2 or 3 whatevers will undo all of our hard work.
And we also understand what it's like to wrestle with our own brains.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we can, I know for myself, I get creative in making it fun. Because at the end of the day, it's usually not that deep. I have just got stuck into that loop, and then I'm tapping into anxiety and frustration and self-esteem issues that I had from being in school and never being diagnosed. And I'm falling back into those old identities. So when I can catch that and then go, wait a minute, let me call a friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, being able to talk about that.
So today we really have talked about the idea of executive functioning along the ideas of time management, and how do I get a project started, and how do I keep myself involved and engaged, and the necessity to intentionally participate to bring something to completion. That's something that most of us struggle with at some point in our lives, and some of us struggle more with. So I feel like today, and Tina, you share with me if you agree, that the 2 big tips that we kind of came up with is, one is give yourself permission. First of all, give yourself permission, and give yourself the ability to keep something novel, make it a little different, allow it to be fun. Choose that way of doing it so that you will want to continue to do it. Do not allow it to become the drudgery in your world. And the other is find those individuals to surround yourself that are going to support you in that change so that they will affirm you in those choices that you're making, that's making you a better person, better. Maybe you're become a better accountant, keeping track of your money. Maybe you're a better individual of being on time because you're getting up and getting your routine started, or you're managing all of these different things like you are, Tina, right? That things are just happening together, but you find those individuals that are going to support you in that. So if you have a way of keeping it novel and a way of finding support around you, you'll make that piece of time management so much easier. But you have to first and foremost start from a spot of foundation. So if you are foundationally not focused, there is help out there. I do want to say that too, right? There is absolutely help. There are ways and means to be able to help you with that. If that's something that you need more information about, please reach out to Tina. Her information will be in here. You can reach out to me as well. We'd be happy to lead you down a path and line you up, help you find those type of resources that might help you to start out from a point of focus and foundation so that you're able to work your way down the path that's going to be successful for you.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. We appreciate all of you for joining Kelley and I in a very practical conversation and examination of what it's like to have a learning difference. The name of our podcast is Focus and Foundation. I am Tina Kramer, the creator of Simple Learning and the patent pending sound device.
And I'm Kelley Phipps with Centerpoint Learning Solutions and the Tutoring Center. We look forward to you joining us for our next podcast. Have a great day.
Bye.